The ice rushed up to meet me faster than I could process. One moment I was mid-rotation in my triple axel, the next I was crashing down hard, my ankle twisting at an angle that made the crowd gasp collectively. Pain exploded through my leg, white-hot and blinding. I lay there on the ice, the arena lights spinning above me, trying to remember how to breathe. This was nationals. This was the routine I'd practiced 1,000 times. This was supposed to be my moment. I turned my head toward the boards, searching for her. Marissa always stood in the same spot during my performances, her expression intense but supportive. I needed to see her face, needed that connection that had carried me through 12 years of training. She was there, but instead of concern, her face showed something else entirely. Fury, cold, disgusted fury. As officials rushed onto the ice toward me, Marissa turned her back. Just turned and walked away from the barrier, her shoulders rigid, not even a glance back at me lying injured on the ice. The cameras caught it all. That moment when my coach, the woman I'd called my second mother, abandoned me in front of thousands of people. I tried to stand, tears mixing with sweat, my ankle screaming. But the physical pain was nothing compared to watching her disappear through the corridor exit without looking back once. I'd been 8 years old when Marissa first noticed me at a local skating club. Small for my age, shy, desperate to please anyone who showed me attention. My parents worked long hours, and the ice rink had become my refuge. "You have potential," Marissa had said, studying me with an intensity that made me feel important. "But potential means nothing without discipline. Are you willing to work harder than you've ever worked?" I'd nodded so eagerly. Of course I was willing. Someone important had finally seen something special in me. The next 12 years Marissa molded me completely. She chose what I ate, measuring portions, forbidding certain foods, making me weigh in daily. She controlled my friendships. Other girls will distract you from greatness. She selected my clothes. You represent me. Everything you wear reflects my program. Everyone called us unbreakable. The skating community talked about our bond like it was something sacred. I believed every word. I believed Marissa's love was the price of perfection, and I paid it willingly. She was at every practice, every competition, every moment that mattered. When my parents couldn't afford new skates, Marissa bought them. When I struggled with confidence, she pushed me harder. When I succeeded, her rare smiles felt like the sun breaking through clouds. I thought we were family. I thought her control was love. The month before nationals had been brutal. Marissa pushed me beyond anything we'd done before. 6-hour training sessions, running drills until I vomited, landing jumps until my legs shook so badly I could barely stand. "Champions are made in the moments when everyone else quits," she'd say, standing at the barrier with her arms crossed. "Are you a champion, Catherine, or are you weak?" I'd started skipping meals even when she didn't tell me to, terrified of disappointing her by gaining an ounce. My ankle had started hurting 3 weeks before the competition, a sharp, persistent pain that grew worse each day. I tried to mention it once. "Coach, my ankle's been..." "Pain is weakness, Catherine, and weakness doesn't deserve gold." Her voice had been ice cold. "Do you want to be remembered as the girl who almost made it, or the girl who pushed through and became a legend?" I'd trained through the pain, wrapped the ankle tighter, took painkillers I shouldn't have, smiled through every landing that felt like my leg might snap. Because Marissa said champions didn't make excuses, because I'd rather break than disappoint her. The morning of nationals, my ankle was swollen and hot to the touch. I hid it under my tights and told myself I just needed to get through one more performance. One more and then I could rest. The jump had felt wrong the moment I launched into it. My ankle gave out mid-rotation, unable to support my weight, unable to complete the movement I'd done thousands of times before. I crashed, the sound echoed through the arena, the crowd's collective gasp, the scrape of my body sliding across the ice. Officials rushed toward me, but I was looking for Marissa, always looking for Marissa, even in my worst moment. She stood at the barrier, her face twisted in disgust, not concern, not worry, just pure cold fury that I'd failed her. She didn't even wait for the officials to help me off the ice, didn't check if I was seriously injured, just turned her back and walked away while I lay there bleeding and broken. Later, footage would surface of her in the corridor, speaking to another coach. The video went viral. "She just doesn't have it anymore," Marissa said, shaking her head. "I gave her everything and she crumbled under pressure. Some people simply aren't built for greatness." The words reached me before I'd even left the hospital, before I'd learned my ankle was fractured in 3 places, before I understood my competitive career might be over. Marissa had written me off before the ambulance even arrived. The hospital room had a chair beside the bed, empty, no flowers on the windowsill, no cards wishing me recovery. I stared at my phone, replaying every sacrifice I'd made over 12 years. The friendships I'd abandoned because Marissa said they were distractions, the school dances I'd missed for extra practice, the birthday parties, the normal teenage experiences, the life I'd given up completely because Marissa said skating required total devotion. I'd devoted everything to her, and she couldn't even send a text message. The press called it a career-ending collapse. Headlines dissected my fall, analyzed what went wrong, speculated about my future. Sports commentators discussed my mental weakness and inability to handle pressure. Nobody mentioned that I'd been skating on a fracturing ankle for weeks. Nobody questioned why a 20-year-old athlete looked so exhausted in pre-competition photos. Nobody asked where my coach was during my hospitalization. 3 days after Nationals, Marissa's statement was released through her publicist. Sometimes, despite our best efforts, students cannot handle the demands of elite athletics. Catherine's unfortunate injury was a result of poor judgment and inadequate mental preparation. I wish her well in her recovery, but I must focus my energy on athletes who are committed to excellence. I read it over and over, each word like a knife. For the first time in 12 years, I saw the truth clearly. I was never her student, I was her product, and products that broke got discarded. 6 months passed, physical therapy, surgery, more physical therapy, my ankle healed slowly. But my career was over. At 20 I was washed up, forgotten, yesterday's news. I was working part-time at a sports rehabilitation center, helping young athletes recover from injuries, when I saw the broadcast. Marissa stood beside a young girl on national television. The girl was maybe 14, thin and nervous, with dark hair pulled back in the exact style I used to wear. "This is Callie," Marissa said, her hand on the girl's shoulder in a gesture I recognized intimately. "She's the future of American figure skating, a true prodigy who understands what it takes to be great." The reporter asked about her previous star student, about me. Marissa's smile didn't falter. Catherine was talented, but she lacked the mental fortitude for this level of competition. Callie, however, has something special. She's going to accomplish everything Catherine couldn't. I watched from my tiny apartment, my healing ankle throbbing in sympathy with phantom pain. The girl beside Marissa looked exactly like I had at 14, eager to please, desperate for approval, completely under her control. Marissa had found her replacement, and the cycle was beginning again. 3 months later, Callie competed in her first major championship. I told myself I wouldn't watch. I told myself I'd moved on, that Marissa's career no longer concerned me. But when the broadcast started, I couldn't look away. Callie took the ice in a costume that made my breath catch. Royal blue with silver accents, the exact design I'd worn at my first nationals. The same cut, the same style, even the same crystal pattern. Then the music started, my music, the piece Marissa and I had spent months choreographing together. Callie skated my routine, every move, every spin, every jump combination, identical to the program I'd perfected over 2 years, the signature spiral sequence I'd developed, the step sequence that had been uniquely mine. The commentators praised Marissa's brilliant new creation. They called it innovative and perfectly tailored to Callie's strengths. Nobody mentioned it was the same routine I'd performed a year ago. Nobody seemed to notice or care that Marissa had simply copied my entire program and given it to someone else. I sat alone in my apartment, watching this girl perform the routine I'd bled for, wearing my costume design, skating to my music. Marissa had taken everything I was and given it away like it had never been mine at all. I tried to reach out, one email carefully worded. "Marissa, I saw Callie's performance. That was my routine. You told me I was creating it specifically for myself. Can we please talk?" Her lawyer responded within hours. "Ms. Hayes, Coach Marissa Laurent has requested no further contact from you. The choreography in question is her intellectual property, created under her direction. Any public claims otherwise will be considered slander and addressed through legal channels. Do not contact Coach Laurent again." I read the letter 3 times, my hands shaking. 12 years together, and she'd sent lawyers instead of a conversation. I tried calling the rink where we used to train. The receptionist, someone I'd known for years, was coldly polite. "I'm sorry, but Coach Laurent has made it clear you're no longer welcome at this facility." I reached out to former teammates, other skaters I'd trained alongside. Most didn't respond. The few who did were brief, uncomfortable. "Marissa said you're trying to cause trouble," one girl texted. "I can't get involved, sorry." Marissa had poisoned every connection I had in the skating world. One by one, she'd made sure I had nowhere to turn, no one who would listen to my side. I was being erased. The interviews started appearing everywhere. Marissa on morning talk shows, in sports magazines, on skating podcasts, always with Callie beside her, always selling the narrative of their perfect partnership. "My previous student struggled with dedication," Marissa said in one interview, her expression carefully sympathetic. "Catherine had natural talent, but she was lazy. She made excuses instead of putting in the work. I tried everything to help her, but eventually I had to accept that some people simply aren't cut out for elite competition." Lazy, me who'd trained 6 hours a day for 12 years, who'd sacrificed everything for skating, who destroyed her body trying to meet impossible standards. Another interview, "Catherine was unstable, honestly. The pressure got to her. I worried about her mental health, but she refused to seek help. That's why I eventually had to distance myself, for my own well-being and the well-being of my other students." Unstable, the word followed me online, in skating forums, in comment sections. People who'd never met me repeated Marissa's lies like they were facts. "I heard she had a breakdown. Didn't she threaten her coach? She wasted so much potential, such a shame." Marissa was systematically rewriting history, painting herself as the victim of a troubled student rather than the coach who'd abandoned an injured athlete. And everyone believed her. Callie won gold at the championship. The skating community celebrated Marissa's triumphant return and her genius for developing such a talented new star so quickly. Reporters praised her ability to overcome the disappointment of her previous student and find success again. One article called her the coach who never gives up, even when her students give up on themselves. I read every article, watched every interview, saw my entire existence with Marissa being rewritten into a cautionary tale about wasted potential and mental weakness. Callie gave her gold medal acceptance speech with Marissa standing proudly beside her. "I couldn't have done this without Coach Laurent. She saved me, believed in me when no one else did. She's more than a coach, she's family." The same words I'd said about Marissa a year ago, the same devotion I'd felt, the same complete surrender to someone who saw us as products, not people. I turned off the television and sat in the darkness of my apartment, understanding finally and completely. Marissa hadn't just replaced me, she erased me, taken everything I was, my routines, my style, even my words, and given them to someone else as if I'd never existed at all. I was a ghost haunting my own life. I'd stopped watching skating entirely, took a full-time position at the rehabilitation center, working with young athletes recovering from injuries. The work was good, helping kids heal, teaching them to listen to their bodies, making sure they didn't push through pain the way I had. One afternoon, a teenage gymnast mentioned her friend who skated. "She trains with Marissa Laurent, do you know her?" My hands stilled on the resistance band I'd been adjusting. "I used to." "My friend says Coach Laurent is really intense, like scary intense. She won't let her eat anything except what's on this specific meal plan, and she has to train even when she's hurt." The girl lowered her voice. "I think she's scared of her coach." "Has she told her parents?" "Her parents think Coach Laurent is amazing, everyone does. My friend thinks she's being weak." I finished the session on autopilot, but the conversation haunted me. Marissa was doing it again, creating another devoted, terrified, controlled student who believed pain and fear were the price of greatness. I started paying attention again, not to broadcasts or competitions, but to whispers in the skating community. Online forums where parents asked nervous questions, social media posts from young skaters that hinted at exhaustion and fear. Does anyone else's coach make them train through injuries? How much weight is too much to lose for competition? My coach says pain is just mental, is that true? And always, buried in the replies, someone would mention Marissa Lawrence's proven methods and tough love approach that creates champions. I watched Callie's social media carefully. Her posts showed a girl who smiled for cameras but whose eyes looked hollow. Her body grew thinner with each competition. Her captions talked about pushing through and never giving up and making my coach proud. The same language I'd used, the same exhausted determination, the same complete devotion to someone who saw her as a product. I wanted to warn her, but what could I say that wouldn't sound like jealousy from a failed skater? What message could I send that Marissa hadn't already poisoned her against? The rumors started quietly, whispers in online skating communities, anonymous posts from people who claimed to know Callie's training regimen. She's losing too much weight. Someone said she fainted in practice twice this week. I heard Coach Laurent won't let her take rest days, even when she's sick. I watched Callie's competition footage with a physical therapist's eye, the way she favored her left side, the slight hitch in her landing, the exhaustion evident in her final spins. She was breaking the same way I had broken, and Marissa was pushing her anyway. Then came the announcement. Callie would perform at the World Championships, the routine she'd be skating, an updated version of my signature program, the one I'd perfected right before my injury. The one Marissa had always called my greatest achievement. Skating forums buzzed with excitement. Coach Laurent is bringing back the legendary routine. This is going to be incredible. I watched the preview footage, seeing Callie struggle with combinations that had come naturally to me, pushing her body into positions it wasn't built for, forcing her to become something she was. Marissa was trying to recreate me, and Callie was paying the price. The internet noticed before the officials did. Comparison videos appeared online, clips of me skating alongside clips of Callie, showing the identical choreography, similar costumes, even matching hairstyles. Is Callie just Catherine too? One popular video was titled, Coach Laurent is literally copying her old student lol. Another comment read. The joke spread. Memes appeared showing my face photoshopped onto Callie's body. Articles discussed whether Marissa was stuck in the past or perfecting a winning formula. Nobody seemed to notice that Callie was struggling, that she looked exhausted in every interview, that her smile never reached her eyes anymore. During one competition, she stumbled on a triple Lutz, a jump I'd made my signature. The commentators gasped. Marissa's face on the sidelines showed pure fury. The next day, Callie posted an apology on social media. I'm sorry for disappointing everyone today. I need to work harder and be better. Thank you to Coach Laurent for never giving up on me. I recognized that tone, the self-blame, the desperate need to please, the belief that any failure was personal weakness rather than a body pushed beyond its limits. She was exactly where I'd been a year ago. The fainting incident happened during a practice session. Someone filmed it on their phone, Callie mid-spin, suddenly collapsing, her body crumpling onto the ice. The video went viral immediately. Skating prodigy collapses during practice. Marissa's response was swift and controlled. Callie simply overexerted herself. She's fine, she'll be ready for competition. But whispers grew louder. Anonymous tips to skating authorities. Former students of Marissa's coming forward with their own stories of extreme pressure and unsafe training methods. And then the bombshell, a leaked document suggesting Callie had been given performance enhancers. Nothing proven, nothing confirmed, but enough to start an investigation. Marissa dismissed it as weak gossip from jealous competitors, but sponsors started asking questions, officials started watching more carefully. The perfect facade was developing cracks, and I watched from the outside, no longer a participant but a witness to the cycle finally beginning to break. The World Championships broadcast felt like watching my own life being performed by someone else. Callie took the ice in a costume nearly identical to the one I'd worn at my peak, royal blue with silver crystals, the design I'd spent months perfecting with a seamstress. Then the music started, my music, my signature program. Every step, every spin, every jump combination, exactly as I'd performed it 2 years ago. The spiral sequence I'd developed after months of experimentation, the step pattern I'd choreographed myself, the final spin combination that had been uniquely, unmistakably mine. The commentators gushed. Marissa Lawrence's brilliant new creation for her star student. What innovative choreography! This program showcases Coach Lawrence's genius perfectly. Nobody mentioned it was the same program I'd made famous, the routine that skating magazines had called Catherine's masterpiece, the performance that had defined my career. Marissa had taken it all and stamped Callie's name on it like I'd never existed. Every step Callie took felt like a stolen heartbeat. Every move was a piece of me being erased and replaced. I sat alone in my apartment, watching my entire artistic legacy being credited to someone else. Callie landed the final jump barely. Her face showed exhaustion, not triumph. The audience applauded, but I could see what they couldn't. A girl pushed beyond her limits, performing someone else's dream in someone else's routine. The erasure was systematic and complete. I Googled my own name one evening and found that articles about my career had been quietly updated, photos removed, achievements minimized. My Wikipedia page now listed me as a former student of Marissa Laurent who retired due to injury. No mention of championships won, no mention of records set, just retired due to injury. As if I'd simply given up. The Skating Federation's website had been updated. Programs I'd pioneered were now credited to Marissa Lawrence's innovative coaching methods. Routines I'd developed were described as Coach Lawrence's original choreography. I tried to visit the rink where I'd trained for 12 years. The guard at the desk, someone who used to wave me through cheerfully, looked uncomfortable. "I'm sorry, but your access card has been deactivated." "I just wanted to watch practice." "Coach Laurent has made it clear you're no longer part of the program. I can't let you in." I stood outside the building in the cold, watching through the windows as Callie practiced under Marissa's stern gaze. The rink that had been my second home was now forbidden territory. I'd been systematically erased. From the rink, from the records, from the history of a sport I'd given everything to. Marissa had made me disappear. The rumors about my injury started appearing in interviews and articles. Marissa's carefully crafted narrative spread through the skating community like poison. Catherine's injury was unfortunately the result of her own carelessness, Marissa said in a major sports magazine interview. She refused to follow my training protocols, insisted on practicing jumps against my advice. When I warned her she was being reckless, she accused me of being too controlling. Careless, reckless, refusing to follow protocols. I'd fractured my ankle because I'd been training through pain for weeks, following every single one of Marissa's demands without question. Another interview. I begged Catherine to see team doctors about her technique issues, but she had too much ego to accept that she needed help. When she finally got injured, she tried to blame me for her own poor judgment. The lies compounded. Skating officials who'd never bothered to investigate now accepted Marissa's version as fact. My former sponsors issued statements about supporting athletes who take training seriously. Callie unknowingly parroted the lies in her own interviews. "I hope I don't repeat my predecessors' mistakes. Coach Laurent teaches us that following the program is essential for success." My reputation disintegrated completely. I wasn't just forgotten, I was now the cautionary tale. The example of what happened when you didn't listen to your coach, when ego overcame discipline, when natural talent wasn't enough. Nobody questioned Marissa's narrative. Nobody asked for my side. I'd been tried, convicted, and sentenced in the court of public opinion without ever getting to defend myself. Marissa's book launched 6 months after my career ended. The Cost of Greatness, a coach's journey through triumph and heartbreak. I bought it, though every instinct told me not to. Read it cover to cover in one sitting, each page a fresh wound. Chapter 7 was titled When Students Self-Destruct. It never mentioned my name directly, but every detail was unmistakable. I watched a talented young skater destroy herself through ego and poor choices. Despite my best efforts to guide her, she refused to accept that greatness requires sacrifice and humility. Her injury was not an accident, it was the inevitable result of someone who thought she knew better than her coach. The book became a bestseller in sports coaching circles. Marissa went on a publicity tour, appearing on podcasts and morning shows, selling her narrative of the dedicated coach who tried everything to save a troubled student. My old teammates publicly praised the book. So brave of Coach Laurent to share her struggles. This really shows the emotional toll of coaching. I hope that other skater reads this and learns from her mistakes. The other skater, I didn't even warrant a name anymore. Marissa's genius wasn't in coaching. It was in rewriting narratives, in controlling stories, in making herself the hero and her victims the villains. And I'd given her 12 years of material to work with. But Marissa's obsession with recreating me was destroying Callie too. Behind the perfect social media posts and glowing competition results, the girl was breaking. I heard it through the rehabilitation center grapevine, whispers from other physical therapists, concerned messages from parents of young skaters. Callie not allowed to take rest days, even when she's clearly injured. Marissa told her tears are signs of weakness and made her train until she stopped crying. She's being pushed to smile exactly like Catherine used to, even when she's in pain. The same cycle, the same control, the same destruction of a young girl who'd been taught that pain and fear were the price of love. Then came the leaked messages, texts between Marissa and someone claiming to provide supplements to enhance performance and aid recovery. Nothing explicitly illegal, but enough to raise serious questions. Callie started missing practices. Official statements claimed minor illness, but skating insiders whispered about collapse and exhaustion. During one competition, cameras caught Callie breaking down in tears after Marissa criticized her backstage. "Stop crying like Catherine did. She was weak and look where it got her. Do you want to end up like her?" The audio was unclear to most viewers, but I heard every word, saw the way Callie flinched, recognized the fear in her eyes. The monster who destroyed me was destroying someone else, and this time people were starting to notice. The fall happened at Nationals, poetic symmetry to my own collapse a year earlier. Callie was attempting my signature triple axel when her body simply gave out. She crashed hard, her cry of pain audible throughout the arena. The crowd gasped, officials rushed onto the ice. And Marissa stood at the barrier, her expression one of fury rather than concern. But this time cameras captured everything, every angle, every moment of Marissa's cold disgust as her student lay injured, the way she turned away even before officials reached Callie, the disgusted shake of her head as she walked toward the exit. The footage went viral immediately. Coach ABANDONS injured skater trended worldwide. Comparison videos appeared showing Marissa walking away from both Callie and me in nearly identical moments. The skating community exploded. Parents demanded investigations. Former students started coming forward with their own stories. Sponsors issued statements distancing themselves from Marissa. Callie was rushed to the hospital with a suspected concussion and severe exhaustion. Medical reports leaked showing she'd been underweight, overtrained, and showing signs of performance-enhancing substance use. The perfect facade crumbled overnight. The investigation moved quickly once it started. A former assistant of Marissa's came forward with documentation, texts, emails, photos of banned substances in Marissa's office. She manipulated medical records to hide injuries, the assistant told investigators. She provided performance enhancers and told athletes they were legal supplements. She threatened anyone who questioned her methods. Bank records showed payments to unlicensed doctors who'd provided substances without proper oversight. Medical files revealed a pattern of injuries ignored or minimized. Training logs showed hours that violated federation guidelines for young athletes. More victims emerged. Former students who'd left the sport, who'd been injured, who'd developed eating disorders or mental health issues under Marissa's training. She told me pain meant I was weak. She controlled everything I ate, War said. She made me feel like I'd die without her approval. The stories were heartbreakingly similar. Different girls, same pattern of control and destruction. News outlets started digging into her history, found old footage comparing my performances to Callie's, expert analysis showing the routines were identical, choreographers confirming that the innovative programs were actually my work. "This is blatant plagiarism," one former Olympic choreographer stated. "Those were Catherine's routines. Coach Lawrence simply recycled them." The truth was finally, publicly, undeniably exposed. Sponsors pulled out within days. Major skating brands issued statements condemning Marissa's methods. The Skating Federation suspended her indefinitely pending full investigation. Coach Marissa Lawrence's training practices are under review for potential violations of athlete safety protocols, use of banned substances, and ethical misconduct. Callie gave a tearful interview from her hospital bed, no longer playing the perfect student. I was terrified of her. Every day I was scared I'd disappoint her. She told me Catherine failed because she was weak, and I'd fail too if I didn't do everything exactly as she said. Did she give you performance enhancers? She called them supplements, said they'd help me recover faster, train longer. I didn't know they were banned. I trusted her completely. The interview destroyed what remained of Marissa's credibility. No more hiding behind dedicated coaching or tough love. The abuse was visible, documented, impossible to deny. Marissa released one statement through her lawyer. These allegations are false and motivated by jealousy from failed athletes. But nobody believed her anymore. The evidence was too overwhelming, the pattern too clear. Her career, built on the broken bodies and shattered dreams of young girls, was finally over. The press conference was held at Federation headquarters. Officials sat behind a long table, expressions somber, announcing the results of their investigation. Coach Marissa Laurent has been permanently banned from coaching affiliated athletes. She has been found in violation of multiple safety protocols, ethical guidelines, and federation rules regarding athlete welfare. The list of violations went on for several minutes: provision of banned substances, manipulation of medical records, unsafe training practices, psychological abuse, intellectual property theft. Furthermore, we are reviewing all performances choreographed under Coach Laurent's name to determine original authorship and provide proper credit to athletes whose work was misappropriated. My name was mentioned. Catherine Hayes, whose signature routines were improperly credited to Coach Laurent, will be formally recognized for her original choreography contributions. I watched from my apartment, no gloating or satisfaction in my chest, just quiet, exhausted relief. Callie appeared briefly, supported by her parents, to say she was retiring from competitive skating. I need time to heal, physically and mentally. I hope other young athletes learn from what happened to me and Catherine. Social media exploded with support. My name trended not as the failed skater or the cautionary tale, but as the one who'd survived, the one who'd been right all along. Messages flooded my inbox from former teammates, skating officials, even some of Marissa's former defenders. I'm sorry we didn't believe you. You tried to warn everyone. Thank you for not giving up. I didn't attend the press conference, didn't give interviews about my vindication, didn't post triumphant messages on social media. I simply sat in my apartment, my healing ankle propped up, and felt something loosen in my chest, a weight I'd been carrying for so long I'd forgotten it wasn't supposed to be there. My phone rang, a Federation official asking if I'd consider returning to skating in some capacity. We'd love to have you as a consultant on athlete welfare and proper training protocols. I thought about it, about going back to the world that had discarded me so easily, about helping prevent what happened to me from happening to others. Let me think about it, I said. I need time. That evening I went for a walk, something I couldn't do for months after my injury. The sunset painted the sky in shades of pink and gold. Somewhere across town, Marissa was facing the consequences of years of abuse. Somewhere, young skaters were learning her name as a warning, not an inspiration. But I wasn't thinking about Marissa. I was thinking about the girl I'd been at 8 years old, desperate for approval, willing to sacrifice everything for someone else's dream. I'd survived. 12 years of control, a career-ending injury, systematic erasure, public humiliation, and I'd survived. I didn't need Marissa's apology, didn't need her to acknowledge what she'd done. The truth had come out without my having to fight for it. Justice had arrived without me seeking revenge. I'd won by simply refusing to disappear, by continuing to exist, to heal, to rebuild, even when everything I'd worked for was taken away. That was the real victory, not Marissa's downfall, but my survival. I walked home as the stars appeared, finally completely free.